Welcome to Birthing at Home, a podcast. I'm Elsie, your host. I'm a home birth mum of 2 little boys, a doula in Melbourne supporting birth at home. I'm a mental health nurse and the co-creator of Home Birth Victoria. If you want to learn more about me, the podcast, or my work, check out www.birthingathome.apodcast. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the Wurunderji people who are the traditional custodians of the land I'm recording on in Naarm, Melbourne, Australia. I would also like to acknowledge that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have been birthing at home on country for tens of thousands of years prior to the British invasion, and acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded. Episode 68 is shared by Genna, who lives on Wurunderji land. After Genna's IVF journey, she chose to have a home birth with her first baby, Freddie, through the publicly funded home birth program. She also shares how invaluable midwifery care was during her pregnancy, labour, birth and postpartum experience, especially in the context of her significant prior mental health struggles, including, at the time, undiagnosed autism and her ADHD, PTSD and anxiety, and then also having previously had a psychotic episode. We also chat about how she factored in her mental health vulnerabilities into her journey and also the benefits of home birth for those who are neurodivergent. And of course, she shares the beautiful birth of Freddie at home. Enjoy. Welcome, Genna, to Birthing at Home, a podcast.
Hi, happy to be here.
Thank you for joining me. And you are located in Melbourne, presumably.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And it's really hot this afternoon.
Yeah, I know, surprisingly. We had a couple of days of rain and now it's hot again.
Very strange weather. But I always love recording with people that are in like the same city as me because I just find it kind of funny. But anyway, do you want to give the listeners a bit of intro about who you are, who's in your family? They obviously know where you're located now, but that kind of thing?
Yeah. So my name's Genna and I live in West Footscray with my husband Ben and our 16-month-old daughter Freddie and our chocolate Labrador Monty.
Excellent. And so Freddie, like the best name. Is Freddie short for something or it's just Freddie?
No, so it is just Freddie.
I love it.
We saw it one day and we both just went, oh my God, that is the best name ever. I think it was like 4 months into my pregnancy and I was like, yep, we've got it done. We don't have to worry about it.
I love it so much. I'm slightly jealous. I love my kids' names, Murphy and Frankie, but Freddie, that's so
kind of
cute.
in the same vein, like they're, you know.
Yeah, same vein. Yes, I'm still cool. And so you had Freddie through a publicly funded home birth program here in Melbourne, yeah?
Yeah, at Sunshine. Yeah.
Cool. I suppose to start off with, how did you come to find home birth? Like, especially the publicly funded program, they're usually tough to get into and you usually kind of have to have an awareness that they exist in the first place. But like, what was your journey to finding birth at home?
Yeah, so I know they're sort of like this mysterious thing. I don't know. I guess, I mean, I'll probably go into this a little bit later, but I went through the IVF journey and found that quite medicalised.
Yes.
And speaking to my sister who'd had a home birth, she just absolutely raved about how amazing it was. That was her second birth. The first one was in the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just totally info dumped me with all of the things birth when we found out that we were pregnant. And I looked into it and initially my IVF clinic referred me. I said, can you refer me to the Sunshine Hospital because I want to do a home birth. Yeah. And I think they missed the home birth bit. So they just directed it straight to the hospital, which then declined because they said we were out of the area. Yeah. And I was meant to go to Royal Women's, but I ended up contacting them directly and she said, oh my God, yes, we can definitely take you. Often that's what happens. So I was really surprised by that too. But anyway, so contacted them, did the questionnaire and everything. And I think she contacted me the next day and said, wow, you're in. It was amazing.
Wow. What do you mean about you were out of the catchment for the home birth program or for Sunshine Hospital?
For Sunshine. So I think maybe they're, I can't remember.
Because they're very zoned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I had never really considered that the home birth radius would be different to the actual zoning of the hospital. Zoning is like, I didn't know this, but zoning is not everywhere in Australia. So if you don't know what zoning is, like in Melbourne, in Victoria, I don't know if it's just a city thing, but you are not allowed to just pick whatever hospital, usually without good, really, 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 really good reason that you want, just for people that aren't aware. So anyway, so you were in the radius for the home birth program. That's fantastic. And so had you ever had you thought about private midwifery versus the publicly funded program?
Yeah, definitely. So I think because I think it was probably a month or so between when I requested Sunshine and then followed up with the home birth program.
Yeah.
And in that time, I kind of was quite disappointed, and I was like, oh, it's something I really want to do. Started looking at private midwives and started emailing them and looking into it a bit more. But then obviously with it came the influx of the costs and everything, and my husband and I were in the middle of a house reno. Yeah. And so I was sort of like, oh, I don't know. And, discussions with my sister, and she was just like, it's the best, it's going to be the best investment. And, now I see that so much. But then when I looked into it a bit more, I was like, oh, I'm just going to find out a bit more. I'm going to push this a little bit more. And that's why I contacted them directly. But yeah, I definitely, if I, obviously heard back, and I definitely would have looked at the private midwives. Yeah.
If that option was sort of not an option. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And so with your IVF journey, because that is like quite a common thing, that it is obviously I guess from my perspective, like one of the most medicalized it's kind of like a science experiment, really, like thing that you can do. It's quite on the other spectrum of physiology, I guess. Yeah. Like, did that play, like, did you have to work through anything in particular to arrive at, obviously, did you say it was your sister or sister-in-law?
My sister, yeah.
Your sister had this really positive experience, but did you have like particular fears or concerns around home birth?
I think it was probably just my lack of education around it. And, obviously being in it now and being around other birthing people and seeing and just learning so much about the natural physiological birth and processes, hormones and things. But yeah, initially I was a bit kind of, and particularly before I was even pregnant, chatting to my sister, I was sort of a bit like, oh, I don't know, what's like all the classic sort of things, like what if something goes wrong, or, is it going to be scary? Are you going to need pain medication? All of those unknowns. But then I think the more that I did a deep dive into educating myself, and, I'm previously a teacher, so I was just, I just want to know, I just want to learn, I just want to get all the information I can. And once I started learning about it and reading about it, I just felt, I was like, oh, that sounds like the best possible thing to do for my mental health, for one, but also, to feel empowered. I think that's the biggest thing that came from home birth for me, is the feeling of being empowered, which is really important.
Yeah, cool. And what was your partner or like other family members, were they like on board, or like what was their perspective of home birth?
Yes, I think when I started reading, and my sister dropped off this huge massive pile of different books,
That's so classic home birth.
We don't see like everyone. She sort of piled me on with all of these podcasts and everything, and I think my husband was flicking through one. He was looking at Rhea Dempsey's Birthing with Confidence, and he's like, oh, yeah, I think I'm going to take this and read it. He started reading it before I did.
Oh, wow.
So his initial thoughts were, oh, I don't know, you sure? Just classic same, like not knowing anything, and then him going, yeah, this is a really good thing. Yep, we should do it. Yep, let's book him for her classes. And
wow,
he actually really took it on.
Yeah.
And I think, a big part of that is that, it was, that empowerment, I guess, but that it was something that I was passionate about doing for myself and doing for our baby and doing for us. And that I think had this real strength coming from it. And
cool.
He was able to see that. And so he was like, yep, I'm going to support you all the way. It was, amazing. Really cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so when did you, like, your experience of like going through the publicly funded model, like how were your appointments set up? Like, what was your experience in pregnancy with, meeting your midwife or like having what was that? How did that look?
Yeah, so it was really positive. It was really good, really relaxed. We met our midwife and she was really lovely, and it was just really sort of casual, and Sunshine Hospital is really beautiful as well. Like they've redone it and it's great. And, I remember going in and feeling so relaxed, and that she was just really kind and caring, and, she shared her number and she shared all these links to things, and was really informative. And, I just felt held immediately. Like I felt like that she's here, she's doing this specifically, and, she, like, as a midwife, she's working specifically with home birth, so she knows her stuff. And I just felt really trusting of her. And and then our appointments were great. Like she would just sort of text us and say, yep, the room's ready to come in. It felt really personal. And gave us the option to be able to do the appointments at home as well. But we said, it's good to go in just in case and be familiar with the environment anyway. So cool. Really understanding of and really curious about my mental health journey prior. So that also was really good. It made me feel really safe and secure, and but it was fantastic. Yeah,
cool. I guess in the context of like the emotional journey that is pregnancy and labor and birth, and how our life experiences and mental health and whatever plays a role in all of that, are you able to like speak a little bit about what that looked like for you?
So I was actually really surprised. Like when I got pregnant, I was quite sick, but I was actually quite surprised at how good I felt emotionally. Hormones did amazing things to me. Which was pretty incredible in comparison, because a few years prior I had a pretty significant mental health episode. I have ADHD, and so my anxiety was through the roof, and I ended up having a period of psychosis and was hospitalised. So that was pretty massive, and that was sort of in the midst of our infertility journey or fertility journey. And so there was lots of factors that kind of contributed, but I think the hormones were one, and then being a teacher coming back after COVID was another one, and PTSD was another one. There was lots of things kind of thrown in, but a bit of a cocktail that didn't quite work out. So I think going through that experience and being in the hospital system, I was at St. Vincent's for a little bit, and that was really scary and really intense. And then going into another hospital, and so being in that environment, and then on top of that going into for the fertility treatment. When I got pregnant was then sort of looking at that and wanting something different for, wanting that kind of, warm cave sort of, to create for myself so that I would feel comfortable and capable and empowered. And, so I think, it was really surprising when I did get pregnant. So the third time was IVF. So it was the first try with IVF. And yeah, I think a big part as well was having that sort of break of about, I think it was about 18 months sort of break between that and really slowing down. I took time off work and implemented lots in terms of like my mental health care plan, and had therapy pretty regularly, which, you know, helped with all those things. And just really stepped off the treadmill and was able to sort of slow down and focus on, you know, not that I thought all of that was because, you know, that was why we weren't getting pregnant, but it's definitely a key factor, I think. And
interesting.
Yeah,
well, I I guess in my work, something like psychosis, which you know, for you and I, maybe it's like easier. I don't know if easier to talk about is the right word, but it's not as, I suppose, stigmatized to us, but in the general population it is. But you know, anybody can experience psychosis. It's not just, you know, drugs or because you have a psychotic illness. And in my work we refer to it as like the stress bucket. And when you know, the bucket fills up too much, the water's got to go somewhere. And sometimes, you know, due to certain vulnerabilities, whether it's trauma or biological factors, makes you more likely for that to, you know, that overflow to look like something like psychosis. But and how that plays out in, you know, physical symptoms like fertility. That's, quite a journey that you've had to, having Freddie. That's like pretty incredible. That's, really amazing.
Yeah, I think I really appreciate you saying it in that way, because I think initially hearing that, and especially, you know, being diagnosed with different things, I was like, what? You know, there is that stigma massively.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. And even, speaking to friends and family about what happened, and just receiving those like normalizing comments was really helpful for me in recovery, I think, as well.
I'm glad. And I suppose, I mean, you don't have to go into it if you don't want to, but was there ever a concern then that you would be more vulnerable to developing something like postpartum psychosis?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting because I remember when I was diagnosed and my psychiatrist said, you know, it's an isolated incident, and like you were saying, like the stress bucket. And because I had really prioritized my mental health going through pregnancy, and I had really good conversations with my midwives and my psychotherapist leading up to it, I felt in good stead around it.
Yeah.
And actually later in my pregnancy, we were getting some testing done, and my midwife wasn't available. And we had another midwife, and she raised it. And I remember I was feeling quite triggered. And my husband just kind of went into protective mode, and he was like, why are you even bringing that up? You know? And, you know, I sort of, I guess he was probably more triggered than I was, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I was able to, probably was the hormones too, where I was like, oh yeah, you know, that's a pretty relevant question to ask. But he obviously was really traumatic for him to witness that.
Totally.
And so he was like, oh, I really think that was out of line for you to ask, and all this stuff. And we sort of debriefed about it afterwards.
Wow. Yeah.
And I spoke to my therapist about it, and she was like, look, you've got all of these things in place. And it was, an isolated incident. She said even with like postpartum depression and your anxiety and stuff, she's like, we've got this toolkit set up for you. And
amazing.
Now had those experiences that if you were, to go down that route, or if you were not feeling okay, or, you know, we were able to have those conversations and I could, speak, like if I was feeling a panic attack coming on or something like that.
Yeah.
I got quite prepared to be able
it
to
would, you know, be the safety net, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
cool.
Interesting. But I think after speaking with her, that was really validating for me too, and made me feel a lot better, because I think not so much the psychosis, but definitely postnatal depression, anxiety were on my radar, and you know, because it's just so incredibly common, and that it was definitely on my radar. And so we were planning for that. We had a mental health plan, we had strategies written out, you know.
Wow.
Phone numbers and stuff to call. There's lots of
I mean, there's so many factors that can contribute to like that destabilization of like your mental health for anyone postpartum. But when you have different vulnerabilities, like it's so fantastic that you were able to implement those that toolkit or safety net to be there in case something you know you did need to be caught. I think it's a shame that the system doesn't really do that itself. Like it's not really built to provide that I want to say like holistic care from like all the way through. It's kind of like you know, I guess in a very general sense, but you had your baby, now you get a midwife for 6 weeks or whatever, and then you're off to your maternal child health, and it's like very fragmented, I guess. And if you need to put in those extra things, it's can sometimes be a lot, but that's fantastic. And so you felt quite good throughout your whole pregnancy, or were there like, how was your pregnancy in general?
So I felt like my mood was really quite good. I felt pretty energetic. For a lot of my pregnancy, I was still helping with the renos at our house.
Yeah,
classic.
Kind of
got to a point where my dungarees got a bit too tight. I was like, I think you should stop.
That's a sign.
There was also this kind of like, I'm going to teach my baby girl that she could be strong, and, you know.
She could do anything, girl power, I am woman.
Playing Spice Girls on the work site while this ladies is walking around. It's hilarious.
What's that pregnant woman doing? Get her off slides.
So there was, you know, good. I mean, at the same time, like I was quite sick too. Definitely not, you know, on the lower end of the spectrum, but I was vomiting pretty much every day, and just, you know, stuffing my face with crackers, and, you know, with vomits in the car and all that sort of fun stuff. But I think there. I was like super swollen towards the end.
Okay.
And my ankles, I had to end up getting an ultrasound of my ankle and stuff. And they're like, nope, you're just really swollen. So,
oh my gosh.
It was pretty crazy. At one point, my best friend like pushed down on my foot, and it took like a good minute for the...
Oh my gosh, that's so bad.
Really I need foot massages every day.
Yes. Stat. What month or what season was Freddie born in?
She was born in November.
Okay. So I guess it would have been warming up.
Yeah. I remember, I think it was, I can't remember, it was footy grand final that we went to, and that was when the push test of my foot happened, and people were like, get off your feet. Like,
you need to get off that work side.
I was definitely off by then. But But so I think, it sort of started, pretty sick, and that kind of lasted probably about, I reckon 3/4 of the way. And then started to feel better, and then like just was feeling really good. Like we went, I think it was the week before Freddie was born. I had my best friend's hen's party, and we were at karaoke, and there's this video of me like 38 weeks pregnant singing karaoke and in these like heels
swollen feet. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, everyone was like, get her out. Like, there was just,
what is she doing?
Out of the bar, like getting all these weird looks.
Talk about a stress bucket.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. And so through your pregnancy, so did you see the same midwife or the same couple of midwives throughout, or how did that work for you?
Yeah, so we had the same one midwife, and then because we needed 2 for the home birth, we were introduced to our second one, I think 2 appointments before our last one. So we met her a couple of times and she was really lovely, and immediately felt really comfortable with her as well. And so I don't know, it was really, really seamless actually.
Yeah.
It was really
cool. And did you what was your partner / husband's name again? Sorry.
Husband's name, Ben.
Did you or Ben do like any extra like education, like aside from whatever your midwife sort of like imparted upon you?
Yeah, so we did the Rhea Dempsey birth classes.
Oh, of course.
They were incredible. That was the best thing I did my whole pregnancy, I think, apart from choosing to do a home birth, I reckon.
Yeah, cool.
Which, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did the classes over a weekend, and it was just incredible. Like, she's just amazing. And
she really tells you how it is. I did her birth attendant training last year.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
And so, but as you would have experienced probably as well, like that you have to, as one of her students, you have to attend one of the weekends. And it was just really funny because like so many people, and I don't know how many home birth couples were in your particular weekend, but it's just, she really zones in on those that are not birthing at home, and 100%. Just somebody has to be upfront. Somebody has to tell the truth and give facts.
I was like, I feel like an A-grade student here.
Yes.
She's like, and anyone she's like telling all these facts about, all these things, interventions, and then she looks at me, and there was two of us.
Yeah, there you go.
She's like, oh, you home birthers, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, okay, yeah, we passed. All right.
I win. I'm the best. No, it's not like that, but it's obviously very validating.
It was really validating. And I think having that, the way that my brain works, like hearing facts and figures and hearing that research and hearing that evidence base, and that was just incredible. Like I couldn't. Yeah, it was amazing. And we met this other home birth couple who we are now like really good friends with, and we're going away. Our daughters were born, I think, 2 weeks apart, and
oh my goodness,
we're going away together over Easter, and we've just stayed in touch, and it's been awesome.
Oh wow! Oh, that's so special.
Yeah,
that's very cool. Yeah, what a I guess. In Melbourne, we're quite lucky to have Rhea here that provides those, weekends. I'll make sure to link that in the description because, it is such a valuable resource. And, she doesn't tiptoe around.
No. And just giving the facts, and, you can't argue with the facts.
Yeah, the stats about different hospitals, amazing. Yeah, cool. And was there anything else? Did you do like anything to prepare yourself for labour, or was Rhea's stuff mostly it? Or so
mainly her stuff.
Cool.
I think also we did a lot of the spinning babies stuff as well. That was incredible, and actually ended up helping a lot because Freddie was breech at I think about 37 weeks, and we weren't really sure how that was going to go, and then we'll kind of one of those appointments we were looking into having to return her, and we ended up just doing the spinning babies, and she was like, yep, I'm in the right position now.
Wow. Amazing.
It was really good. Some of the positions are interesting.
And very difficult to do when you're really pregnant.
Yeah. But I think also it was kind of cool because we just had that time together, specifically doing something together, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool. Yeah.
Apart from that, like books, a few different books. Now I can't remember. The Birth Space. That book I looked at quite a lot. A few other podcasts and things like that. But and this one, of course.
Nice.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff was Maria's information she shared.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is a very full-on weekend. I think everybody that participates must be completely exhausted from all of the information. It's a pretty full-on weekend. Yeah. And so when preparing to like have Freddie at home, were you planning, so there was going to be the 2 midwives and Ben, were you planning on having anybody else there, or was just those
we were
guys?
looking into having like a photographer, a doula. I actually, so looked into way too late, but not too late, but just later in the piece. I was like, oh, maybe I do want a doula. And looked into actually a lot of her birth attendants.
There you go.
They're like, yeah, we'll come. But no one was available. And I think it got to a point where I was like, oh, we're doing a lot of reading up and it might be actually quite nice just for it to be sort of Ben and I. And then it ended up that someone from the women's was shadowing our midwife on the day of my birth. So she messaged and said, oh, is it okay if another midwife comes? And I'm like, oh yeah,
wow.
Great. Excellent.
Oh, brilliant.
It was fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, that must have been, that must have been around the time because the women started their home birth program at the start of last year, and like a part of, as far as I'm aware, a part of new services developing or starting publicly funded home birth programs is that, the midwives have to train up essentially on how to act and be in a home birth, and so that shadowing process is part of that. So cool. So you would have contributed to a midwife in the women's home birth program. That's pretty
amazing.
Cool.
It was so great.
Nice.
And she also just took all these beautiful photos and videos, which was amazing. So I was like,
wow, so you didn't need a photographer or a doula.
No. So it was kind of the ideal situation. It was great.
Yeah. Did you have any worries about like any of the criteria, especially going over 42 or 41 plus whatever it is in the public funded, I don't know why that's such an annoying phrase, but the home birth program.
Yep. So I was a little bit concerned about that because I was like, I had my heart set on it. But at the same time, I sort of had got to a point where I was so comfortable with our midwives and the process, and, I'd kind of got that sort of armor up from Rhea as well of like, declining things that I don't need. And so I felt okay about that as well, that if I needed to transfer to hospital or if I needed to go in, that I'd still have those kind of protective factors around me. So, I think earlier in my pregnancy I was a little bit concerned about that, but then towards the end I sort of felt a bit more in control of those things. And I mean, obviously things can be completely out of your control. But, I felt comfortable being able to, switch into that. I think just that time and preparation,
Yeah, nice. And so in the end, how many weeks were you when you went into labour with Freddie?
39 weeks.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And what was the lead up to labour like? Did you have any signs of like labour or that your body was preparing or?
Not well. When I was 38 weeks, the week previous, doing karaoke at my friend's hens.
Yes.
We were sort of walking back, my sister and I were walking back down Chinatown, and I was like, oh my God, I think my water's just broke. And my sister's like, oh my God, like fully preparing me. We're in this cab, and anyway, it was a false alarm.
Yeah.
But I think that really shocked me. I was
like, good story.
We gotta be. I know. I was like, damn it, that's annoying. It wasn't. But since then, which was, about 5 days, I definitely was like, there's a bit going on here. That was a bit unusual, but who knows? And I mean, really, it could have been the start of it. But, it really started at about 4:30 in the morning. And, I woke up to my waters breaking.
Yeah.
Probably. And, and I went to the bathroom, and I remember just going, oh, what? And then feeling crampy.
Yeah, wow. So pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
Wow.
And going, oh, this feels like my period,
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's so weird. It's like, oh, maybe it was something I ate, because we had friends come over the night before. And I think just in my head, I had 40 weeks in my head.
Yeah.
I was like, no one ever,
first time mum.
First time mum, no. And then I was like, oh, this sort of feels like my period. And then, kind of putting 2 and 2 together at 4:30 in the morning, I was like, oh my God, today I think is the day. And it was just this sort of realization. And then just like I was flooded with this, positive emotion, probably.
Yeah.
It was making its way in. And I remember going back into bed and just telling my husband, and he was like, all right, well, we better get as much sleep as we can then. I was like, okay, yeah. All right. I'm like, yeah, true. I'm not just going to like start my day now if I can just sleep for a little bit more.
Yeah.
And, contractions hadn't started intensely or anything yet. So, so I went back to sleep for a few hours, and then got up and, straight away was like, all right, so we've got to do, this oxytocin menu, all the things, and, look at all the cute dog videos and stuff, and eat a really yummy breakfast and all these things that will make me happy and bring on this labour. And I remember turning to my husband and going, oh, you know what, like, let's just go to the dog park, because I love dogs. And I was like, we can, go for a walk. And I remember walking around the dog park and just like patting all these dogs and being all really excited, and then just going, oh my God, this is so weird. Like, I'm going into labour. And all these people, like, our neighbours don't know. How funny.
That is one of the funniest things. What?
And Ben was like, are you sure we should leave the house? Like, do you want to? And I'm like, no, it's not that bad. Like, we can, I'm definitely not like curled over anything yet. So
yeah.
Fresh air, croissant, dog park, like.
Yeah, what more could you want?
Exactly.
That's brilliant. That's so good.
So, from then I think the other thing was that was the day that Optus went down. So,
oh my gosh,
I didn't know this, but all of the hospitals are Optus.
Oh my gosh, because was that a Wednesday?
Maybe. I probably should know, but I don't know.
No, just because like I remember that day in my head, because I do homebirth Victoria as well, and I'd had a meetup, and I just remember like I couldn't communicate with anyone, and I do them on a Wednesday, so it must have been oh my gosh, that's so funny. And like you can get through to ambulances or like so much crazy stuff. Wow.
I went from like home birth to free birth in my mind. I was like, oh my God, maybe I can do this. And we tried to call the hospital, couldn't get through, and
oh my gosh,
couldn't even call family. And eventually I got a message on WhatsApp from the hospital from my midwife. She was like, just letting you know in case. And I was like, well, actually,
I've been to the dog park.
I think,
they should send everybody to the dog park.
Yeah. Oh, far out. So there was kind of an added layer, but I think I also, I was like, I can do this, I think,
Yeah.
If we get onto them, we do. But if not, we're doing it at home anyway.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know how pleased my husband was about that. I think he was pretty relieved when the message came through. He's like, all right, it's not just me.
Yeah, we're not having a free birth. And so that was like in the morning sometime?
Yeah. So that was in the morning. And we'd got everything sort of set up. I had this really beautiful like mama blessing that my sister organised for me with a lot of my friends, and they'd all made these like stunning. I was like, how you guys are artists? Like these stunning watercolor affirmations to put around my birth space, and
wow.
so I went down there and started putting those up, and had the birth ball and the birth circuit sort of stuff, and the TENS machine, which we'd hired, and Ben had tried the night before, actually.
Yeah.
Slapped it on him. And
nice.
Yeah. So I felt really good about just kind of taking my time to set that space up. And then we sort of looked at the pool, which was still wrapped and not inflated. And we need to inflate this. And we realised we didn't have a pump. And because, we thought we had another week. And so he's like, I'm going to go to Bunnings. So he went up to Bunnings. Oh, my gosh. And I was, like, doing circles on the ball.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh. And, like, the pool is, like, not something you can, like, blow up with. You would, like, pass out.
Oh, my God. No. Yeah, we had to fully...
You could never do that.
Oh, my God. No way.
Thank God you, like, live, like, in the city.
I know. Although we probably would have been a bit more. I mean, you'd hope that we would have been a bit more.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But still.
And it was on the list. It was like, finish the deck, organise dog sitter, fill up the pool, like get, then like.
By pump. Yeah.
Oh, God. So, we did all the tick off of everything else in the house.
Yeah.
Oh, so, he ran off and got that. And, I was doing sort of circles on the ball, and I think by the time he got back, I was definitely feeling contractions, and he sort of started timing them and everything, and I think it got to about 11 or 12, and he was like, I think we should check in with the midwives and see how we're going. And because I think I was at that point, I was like, oh, maybe I'll put the TENS machine on now. Like they're getting a bit more intense. And I had that on pretty much right up. Yeah, I had it on for quite a while. So I was using that intermittently and, just sort of moving around. I think that was the biggest thing that helped me. I think being able to move freely and, go outside if I wanted to, go inside if I wanted to, go in the shower. The water really helped a lot. So there was a few things that were funny that happened, like that we eventually got through to my family and got my mum to pick up my dog because I was like, he's going to go crazy at the midwives when they come. And he came and got the dog, then left again, and then came back again like 10 minutes later and was like, oh, I need the key. She was staying at a friend's house around there. She's like, oh, I need the key. I'm sorry. I'm like, good luck. Left again. And then I'd organised for someone to come and pick up my laptop for work. And because I thought that I wasn't going to be due until, having been in labour until a week later, she just appeared and Ben thought it was the midwife.
Oh, no.
And I was in the shower at that point and I was like, Ben, you need to just go. And he was just so confused as to why she was there and what was happening. And she just had no idea that I was in labour. I was like, I'm just going to go now. I'm sorry. Just in the shower.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was, I think something that really helped me throughout the labour was thinking about like the role of the different hormones and that they were playing and being aware of like the crisis of confidence and being aware of how I was in relation to how I appeared, if that makes sense. Like, for Ben, like a lot of it when it got quite into active labour and even just a bit before that as well, not being able to communicate.
Yeah.
And I think such a big part of why I felt fine was because Ben knew about that and he had that understanding of that, my brain's going to be on task and like it's going to be just I'm like mentally I felt so clear and so sharp and he was saying, it was like, which I remember from the RIA course, she was saying, you're going to look like you're drunk, you're not going to be able to talk and all this stuff. And that's when lots of the partners freak out. And he said, seeing you like that, and he was like, no, I knew that you were fine because you were fine. Like you were just, taken over by the hormones. And that was really helpful and really good. Sorry, I realise I'm kind of rambling. I'm like, do you want me to just...
That's perfect. I think that's a really important part of birth is that, you do. I mean, you only have to like look on Instagram and look at videos and stuff and see when you really sink into labour land, I mean, you're so overtake. Like the idea is that your body is providing all of these endorphins and all of the oxytocin and everything to provide that pain relief, and to have everything working in the way that it's working. And side effect or whatever of that is that like you look sometimes as if you're completely out of it, but that's the whole point. And if you're not aware that that's how it's meant to be, then you would freak out. I mean, it can also be
totally
sometimes for the woman like quite a strange experience because like there is, in society that, obviously you're alert and you're on, and that I mean, in terms of like trauma as well, like it's like such a vulnerable place to be. Absolutely. But it's so important that you can sink into that because that's how it's all meant to work.
Yeah, exactly. And I think just understanding that was such a big part, and is why I felt even in that real vulnerable state that I was like, nope, I can do this. This is normal, and and I think, even, looking at kind of the role of different hormones at different times and having that sort of picture and that image in my mind of like a timeline of what labour can look like was so concrete for me and helped me so much that even I think one part, like I had all sorts of things stuck around the room, but I had this timeline that Ria had drawn and shown the role of different and like how long these periods can last for. And I just found that such a good tool because for me, and as I say, my ADHD brain, like having that visual was just so invaluable because I could just go and I could point to it, or like Ben could go look at what he could see and go, oh, she's probably there. And even the midwives, be able to communicate with me as well and say, look, you're here, but you're going to get here and this is what you might feel and stuff, and just as a bit of a talking point was so helpful. I was like, I felt like a kid in the classroom. Let's refer to these anchor charts.
Figure one over here. And so your colleague picked up the computer and whatnot, and so you text like the midwife via WhatsApp to sort of say something's happening. When did they eventually, when did you get them to come?
So I think they came at about 2:00.
Okay.
And by that time I was, pretty heavily contracting. And they were getting closer together, and I don't remember the exact timings, but they were definitely getting a bit more intense, and I was cranking that TENS machine. They arrived. So the second midwife, not the one that we've been seeing the whole time, arrived first. She was like, yep, you're really in it now. And I remember being like, yes, I am.
Show me on the graph.
Show me the graph where I am. And she was just so lovely. I remember she came in and I was like so relieved to see her. And she was just awesome and just made me feel really supported, and was just, giving me those affirmations and stuff. And then I think it was probably about maybe half an hour later, my other midwife came in, and I just remember being so relieved to see her as well, and just having that, that real, the kind of community around you.
Or familiarity as well, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
And when did the shadow midwife come?
Oh, yeah, so she came with her, sorry.
Yeah, okay, with her. Yeah, okay. So everybody's there at that point.
Yes. Yep. So they were like, cool. And that was the other thing. So our hot water ran out.
Of course.
So then everyone was on like boiling, all the midwife. Well,
hot duty.
They were like, Ben, you go and support her down there, and then we'll just be like, in the kitchen making cups of teas. And they were like madly boiling pots and pots of hot water and filling up the bath and the birth pool. And and so it was good because, knowing that they were there and having that support, but also not needing to heavily rely on them either. It was really nice, and I think really special for Ben and I because, he was able to, I would be leaning with my, head in his lap, or he would be, brushing my hair or doing acupressure points, or sometimes I'd just tell him to absolutely bugger off. And, and it was just so good. And I think just him giving me those, positive, affirmations, but also like, cheering me on and just, saying, you can do this, that was just so powerful. And I think I just needed him there. And, even if he wasn't saying things like, it was just so important for him to be there and for me to feel held and supported. And it was amazing that he was able to do that and just be right there, getting his hand absolutely squeezed.
That's beautiful. And I think it reminded me of, actually something that Dr. Stu, I think, maybe said from like the Birthing Instincts podcast, and it was more in reference to obstetricians, I suppose. But I think, like that's from my perspective, that's how birth should be. It should be like this family-centered, unless there's something else that's wanted and you want that, like, I don't know, some women say they want like, a more feminine energy around, and, their partner can go boil the pots or whatever. But I think that is really important, that if that's something that you want, that is fostered, and that, the midwives are like the, Dr. Stu called them like the lifesavers on the beach. They're just there in case. They're not going to like ruin your fun, like playing in the water or surfing or whatever. But if something happens, then they'll be there. They're not going to like hover over you and like, oh, don't do this or don't do that or whatnot. And that sounds really special. That I can imagine though basically three midwives and like forming like a hot water train. And, like sounds kind of comical.
Fairy godmothers around the cauldron.
Yes, like the three witches. That's so good.
Amazing.
Yeah. And do you want to walk us through the birth then of Freddie?
Yeah. So, I think got to about 4 o'clock, and I was quite heavily in labour, and my contractions were pretty intense. And I think by this point I was vocalising a lot. And I just remember coming up to it like in my pregnancy and going, oh my God, like, am I going to make lots of noise, and feeling really self-conscious about making noise. And and then on the day just going, no, this is my house, and like, who cares, and my neighbours, whatever. And we'd actually told my neighbour, I was like, just so you know, we're having a home birth, so if it sounds like no
one's being murdered.
But so I was vocalising a lot, and that was really, really helpful, like more than I thought it would help, just in terms of like pain, but also just letting it out and sort of visualising the contractions as waves. And I was contracting quite a lot, and I think I remember asking, I was like, it got to a point where I was like, I'm so exhausted. Like, I'm really done. Like, and I remember turning to Ben, because a lot of my labour up to this point, I just was basically nonverbal.
Yeah.
And in the zone and just yes and no. And then I sort of felt this feeling of like coming out of it and going, turning to Ben going, oh my gosh, I don't know how much longer I can do this. And he just like looked at me with
point to the graph
smile. Yeah, pointed to the graph. There was this big star. And yeah, he didn't actually, but yeah, I had this big smile and I was like, what? And he sort of whispered something to the midwives and they were like, all right, hop up. Like, you're going to go and sit on the toilet for a little while and then, you know, I want you to have a couple of contractions there and then you can go into the pool. Because I was like, I don't know how much I can do it. Yeah, I just want to get in the pool. I just want to get in the pool. Like, I'm over moving. I'm sore. Like, I'm exhausted. I'm sweaty and, you know, just exhausted.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and went and sat on the toilet. And it wasn't until later that Ben was like, oh, that was probably the crisis of confidence, you know, like I got so excited when you said that. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was just like, oh.
Yeah.
And yeah, had a few contractions on the toilet, sitting backwards.
Yeah.
And yeah, Ben was just there the whole time. And I remember he went and got a like cold rag and had that on my head and was just, yeah, it was just really present and stuff. It was really amazing. And then sort of waddled back down into our lounge and got in the pool, and that's when things just really started ramping up and, you know, the ring of fire, and I just was feeling so, you know, just really in it, really animalistic and very loud. We have video evidence. But, yeah, it also felt really amazing as well, just being so raw and then still so supported with the midwives. And I remember they had the mirror there and they're saying, okay, yep, you're 9 or 10 centimetres dilated, you know. They never really, I think it wasn't until sort of later, like I was sort of naturally pushing, but I wasn't really pushing that hard. Like I don't think I was mindfully pushing, but I was just sort of still breathing through these contractions. And I remember them saying, okay, if you want, you can do like the horsey lips and, you know, breathing technique. And to Ben's amusement, I made like a horse sound. So I'm like, he just leant down and he was like, just this.
Oh my goodness.
It was funny to think about after. At the point I was like, tell me what to do, like
I'll make horse noises if I want to.
Oh god. And yeah, anyway, and then just felt that real I was like, oh my god, everything's gonna rip to pieces, you know. Just so intense. And and then, you know, feeling her crowning and the midwife saying to Ben, like Ben was sort of leaning in the pool with his head right next to mine, and we've got these beautiful photos where he's just right there, you know. And then her saying to him, you know, you should come around, like you'll be able to see the head. And he was like, nah, I cannot move from here. Like she's clamped onto me. And so they had the mirror and was sort of pushing my back down, and I was just also had this like massive relief that I was in the pool and I was able to have that water birth that I wanted. And and then just feeling just that relief. So then I actually had the ejection reflex.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I remember having one contraction that was really intense, and then the next one where I was like, oh my God. And then I turned to my midwife and I said, that was different. Like that felt like my vagina just vomited. And he was like, wow, okay, yep, you know, now you can start pushing. And so I did, and it was only a couple of pushes and her head was out, and then a few more, and she kind of swan dove under my legs and I caught her, and it was just the most amazing feeling. And I remember just still being in that, you know, grabbing her and looking at her and thinking, oh my God, is she real? And, you know, checking her fingers and toes and I still was kind of, in that pattern and rhythm of breathing and vocalizing. So I remember having her and going, like that. And Ben ran around and came over to her, and we have this beautiful video from our amazing midwife of us, like, in those first moments that was just incredible. And it was the most incredible experience ever.
Yeah, so special that you're able to capture that, because our memory is obviously, memories are so important, but having that physical record of such a moment that you'll never no matter how many babies you have, like, that is so unique to them and to you at that particular time. And I don't know about you, but like, I love watching back the video and whatever else of especially when Frankie was born, and just it's so special,
I felt it was funny actually, because through my pregnancy, my sister would just message me birth videos. Like, I'd just be like, whoa, okay, yeah, all right. And she's like, oh, don't worry, you'll love it. Like, and then by the end, I think I was just watching so many. I'm like, oh my God, yes, you go, girl.
Yeah, I'm
like,
so excited.
Yeah, that looks incredible. Yeah, you're really powerful. And that almost kind of helped me too.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think we're like, generally as a society, we're kind of primed to fear birth and to fear the pain, and it's scary, and we could die, and everybody could die, and everything could go bad, and it's going to be the worst pain ever, and blah, 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 blah. But I think, it's really important to get out there that, it's freaking hard work. Like, you're literally birthing an entire human from your body. Like, that's like, holy moly. And, like, that deserves to be, celebrated, and it's something that you can look forward to. And holy moly, like, that oxytocin after, like, oh my gosh, like, that is addictive. If I could just like give birth, I don't want to be pregnant. I don't enjoy being pregnant, but if I could just do that, then I would have lots of babies. Because I am so hooked to that feeling. It just felt outstanding.
And I think that's just it was so special, and so, like, afterwards also just felt, I don't know if we're going to kind of go into this anyway, but felt really hard to talk about, because most of my friends either had traumatic births or births that didn't go as they'd expected, and it was almost this like isolating experience as well, having such a positive birth story. I don't know, it even now it feels really weird to say that, because I almost feel like this privilege. And like, even, I think why it's so important to share these stories, because, it does feel really rare, but I also am like, is it because a lot of people aren't talking about the good things,
well, it's kind of like, it's like a very strange thing that I don't know if it's like being human. I mean, maybe, I don't know if it's about like our society these days. I don't really know, but we are so addicted to drama. And like, a positive birth story is usually not that dramatic. And amongst, like, the home birth or free birth or whatever community, if you want to call it that, like, there is often like this sense of like, I can't share my positive story because, so many people I know didn't have that. And that sense of like, I feel privileged, but, like, thinking about all of the work you did, and it's not like it just happened, like fell out and, magic. I mean, the whole thing is magical, but it's, it's a lot of hard work, like physical, like spiritual, emotional. And, I guess it's lucky in your sense that, your sister had a home birth, and I guess that's the power of story sharing, is that it just takes one person. I recorded a story earlier today, and she didn't learn about home birth from it, but she learned about water birth by like a colleague that she once worked with. And just that simple idea that you could give birth in water was what led her down to finding home birth. It's like, it doesn't take much, but spreading the word that these things exist, and it like birth doesn't have to be a negative or traumatic experience is so important.
Yeah. And it was interesting as well, because I remember afterwards kind of discussing this with a few people, and someone a friend saying, "Oh, you're so lucky with your birth." And I just remember going, is it luck though? Because I was like, I had a pretty shit time trying to get pregnant, and there was so many factors that I had to work really hard at, and I just did so much learning about things. And, a lot of things are absolutely out of my control, and I definitely acknowledge that it can be extremely difficult for lots of people.
Yes.
But I remember kind of feeling that as a bit of a dagger, because I was like, I don't think it was luck, I did a lot. I put a lot in place. And interestingly, I remember chatting with my sister when I was sort of mid-pregnancy, and we were talking about neurodivergence, and I said, it'd be so good if there, I wonder if there are some like programs out there that, can support neurodiverse individuals in the birthing process. And, I hadn't really looked into it, but I was like, like being able to control your space and your sensory sensitivities, and, being aware of what was happening. And, that's eventually I was like, oh, well, that's what a home birth is. Like you've got some certainties, you've got your space, you've got your environment, you've got, so much that you can do, and to make yourself feel kind of comfortable and supported, and in that cave kind of, that it was just interesting reflecting on that and going, oh, actually I kind of created that for myself.
Absolutely.
I've definitely thought a lot about that as well with home birth, that, it can be such a safe, secure place for especially neurodivergent people. And, so I think, that's just an interesting kind of takeaway that I had.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think about I have this sort of obscure interest in Australian Sign Language in Auslan, and I'm waiting to enroll in a sign language, Auslan course. But part of it, the hospital system is built for, well, I want to say a white European man. But all of these other, the diversity of the human experience. And I just think, for neurodiverse or people that are deaf or from multicultural backgrounds that don't speak English, what the heck? The hospital system is not built to accommodate for individuality and let alone individual sensory preferences. That's sure, you can make adjustments to a hospital room in some cases, and so for some people maybe the hospital does feel like the safest place, but that's not for everyone. And there's definitely so many elements to hospital that you can't control: noises, smells, temperature, just to name a couple. It's in terms of trauma informed, I could literally go on. I think home birth, I guess, in its, essence, I guess, or continuity of care, having a known midwife, they're all beneficial because it is actually individual centered care.
Yeah.
You know, it's family centered. It's one-on-one. It's not, you know, you're just another product of the machine. So yeah, I'm really happy that you were able to, work hard to like achieve that experience for yourself. I imagine that, the confidence that it would have given you to be able to have that experience, and, you know, that's sort of unparalleled.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. And I think, you know, just the sheer, like I just reflect on after the birth. I remember, you know, getting up and being able to walk to the shower, and I was walking down my hallway and, you know, fully conscious, fully like just in this like oxytocin high, and walking into my own shower and having a shower and just going, what the fuck? Like, you know, I'm just at home now. And, you know, Ben cracking a bottle of champagne and, you know, just our midwife hanging out there. And we rolled out the sofa bed and just snuggled up with Freddie, and our midwife was there. And funnily enough, we were like, oh, are you hungry? You know, we ordered grilled and had burgers and rewatched the birth video.
So good.
You know, it was funny. She was like, that was the highlight of that day.
Yeah.
After.
That's beautiful. What was the birth of Freddie's placenta like?
Yeah, so it happened, I reckon, about half an hour after.
Yeah.
So yeah, I said, you know, that I'm not in any rush, and they were very supportive of that. And I remember, after I gave birth, Freddie was like awake. She was so awake, so alert, and she was trying to nuzzle in, and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, she's going to try feeding. And she nuzzled in, and then I remember going, oh my God, and like feeling cramps again because she was trying to breastfeed. And just going, wow, oh, that's right, I've got to do it again, kind of.
Yeah.
So we had this like bowl, and our midwife, I was sort of nursing Freddie and then handed her to Ben, and Ben had a really nice skin-to-skin cuddle. It was actually pretty incredible. I sort of stood up, and my midwife was like, we're just going to let gravity do its thing. So I had a few contractions, and then it came slopping out. And she was like, wow. I'd be like, that is, I think it ended up weighing almost the same as Freddie. Like, it was a huge placenta.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It was massive. I'm like, thank God. Like, that is validating, because Freddie's money.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
No wonder my legs were so swollen.
Carrying like two babies.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it was pretty amazing, and pretty seamless, I think. And it was cool as well afterwards, because my midwife sort of had it up on the bench and was like, do you want a tour of your placenta? And she sort of took me through and let me know all the things. And it was incredible. It was so incredible to see. I think, that's definitely such an amazing thing to be able to do and to look at, and fascinating, and just being able to look at it and reflect and go, oh my God, my body just made that from like my baby. But our bodies are truly incredible. And what was your postpartum, like, you know, that initial postpartum period like with Freddie? It was pretty good. I think we just were very much like, we're going to stick in our own little bubble, you know, did little video calls with family and stuff. And I think because I'd put so much time and energy into educating myself about the birth, one thing that I wish I would have learned more about, because I think my brain was overflowing with
information.
But was around breastfeeding. And I remember earlier my friend telling me, you know, just get onto Breastfeeding Association of Australia, and you know, if you need anything, nurse on call, you know, all of that And that ended up being really helpful because I was so engorged and I was like, I think my milk's coming through, but I don't know. And I was doing some expressing beforehand. And it just sort of had that kind of hormone drop, and I just became really, I just was quite sort of stressed about getting mastitis. And so I was like, all right, let's just get onto this. Let's call them, let's ask them. And got a few really handy techniques. And she fed pretty well from then, had, a bit of cracked nipples and stuff like that. But I was really glad to have known that, because I was sort of like, oh, I don't know, like starting to feel a bit iffy. And I was like, no, we've got this, and was really supportive. And we did a bit of learning, which is great.
More learning.
Some more learning. And then even just, the care that we had from the midwives was really amazing, like them visiting at home and being really assuring of the choices that we'd made around co-sleeping and, even just like breastfeeding techniques and stuff like that was just incredible, having that support from them. And for them to be able to come to the house and just see her and have all the checks and know that she was all fine and everything was really amazing. But I feel like my recovery was quite good. Like I had some minor tears, but I didn't have any intense recovery or anything, which I was pretty thankful for. And, we slowly, opened our bubble and let people in and meeting her and everything. And felt really supported by some friends and family.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your story. As can often happen in storytelling, sometimes you miss info that you really wanted to say. Genna messaged me later and let me know too that they also got connected to the Galanjara maternity program through Western Health here in Victoria. Through this program, Freddie was provided a possum skin cloak which holds significant cultural meaning for Aboriginal people and has also played a role in Ben's, Freddie's dad's, own journey to restoring his connection to heritage as an Aboriginal man. You can see a beautiful picture of Ben holding Freddie in the possum skin on the Birthing at Home, a podcast Instagram. They also buried Freddie's placenta underneath a tree in the backyard. Genna also wanted to highlight that she was recently diagnosed with autism level 1, which has further emphasised why sensory and space factors were so important in her preparation for Freddie's birth at home.